Welcome to Destination Marriage, a podcast about successfully navigating the winding roads of marriage. Whether you are looking to get married, you are engaged, newly married, or have been married for years, we want to share with you how we have successfully navigated those winding roads over the past 18 plus years.
Join us on this journey as we discuss real-life experiences, both highs and lows, and what we have learned along the way. Happiness, grace, passion are some of the things we all strive for in marriage, and we invite you to take this journey with us. Welcome to Destination Marriage.
Welcome to episode 13 of Destination Marriage. I'm Jackie.
And I'm Tommy.
And we're thrilled to have you join us today on this journey. Today, we are continuing our series of Destination Growth. We're going to discuss the one thing, the surprisingly simple truth behind extraordinary results by Gary Keller with Papasan.
Yeah, this is a fantastic book. We found it extremely applicable and timely with this ongoing COVID crisis, and with so much transition in so many people's lives, including our own, personally, professionally, with our family and our sons. This book could not have come at a better time to kind of revisit for me and visit for the first time for you.
I agree. I was, so obviously you had introduced me to the book, and in reading it, I was just, each time that I would turn a page into a new chapter, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it's such a good read for me, because I was thinking, like, how many times have I ended my day, or how many times have you ended your day, your week, your month, or heaven forbid, your year, feeling like you didn't accomplish anything, even though you were juggling a million different things, which is me every day. I mean, I do feel like I'm constantly juggling a million things, but I've had those moments, and I look back on the day and I'm not satisfied with how I've managed my time, or I realize I've never completed the one task I actually set out to do in the first place. So I know we've all had those days, but the reality is that a collection of those days where we simply don't complete the necessary task or the most important thing for that day can snowball and then leads us down a path that moves us further away from our one thing, which obviously differs for every single person as far as what that one thing is.
Right. And that's what a lot of things about this book, it's not just one thing, period. It's one thing in different aspects of your life, career, family, spiritual. There's so many different aspects that this book really touches on. Mm-hmm. I think it's a must read for anyone who wants to reboot their time management kind of skills, or take a lot of where they're at with their time management, realigning priorities, or even change course successfully, around reaching different goals, and it applies to just all areas of your life.
Yeah, so I remember you had read this book, I don't know, maybe a few years ago, but you turned me onto it, and I wasn't sure how did you actually come about to find this gem?
It was given to us at a national sales meeting. It was kind of a, welcome gift along with like the itinerary and so on. So it was kind of a theme for the sales meeting, and we took it. I think I read a lot of it on the way back on the plane, and to be honest, it kind of sat on the shelf for quite a while. So when we talked about what next book we should do for Destination Growth, I thought of the one thing, and man, it was very, very timely. Like I said, I couldn't be happier with some of the stuff. It's really made me think over the last week. It's
a fantastic read, and it makes sense that it would be at your national sales meeting. I mean, it was created by Gary Keller, who is the founder of Keller Williams, which real estate, obviously sales. So, may ring a bell with some of you if you are in that space. We're not in real estate, but we're in sales. And so it's an excellent book if you are in sales, in any form of sales, really. But like Tommy mentioned earlier, it can be applied to so many different areas of your life. And,
absolutely.
One of the things that really just kind of jumped out at me, and this is pretty early on in the book, is talking about a balanced life. And I don't know if you've heard this, but I hear it all the time where people are saying, oh, I want a work-life balance, or I want a balanced life, or, constantly about this balance. And a balanced life is a lie, according to this book, which was kind of an eye-opener, because that's something I feel like we're always striving for. Like, I want balance in my life.
What does that mean, though, right? And that's what, if you dig into it a layer too deep, can you really define what that is?
Well, I guess it's all personal. It's all relative to what is a balanced life for you, but then we're kind of on, like you're saying, like we're always striving for whatever that balance is.
Yeah.
And it's really never attainable.
I had a leader, one of the leaders of one of the companies I worked for, kind of hit on that same notion. He was kind of introducing himself to the company. He had just been hired as like a VP level person, and he said, you know, the whole idea of a balanced life is kind of a myth. What he wanted us to all be focused on was a healthy imbalance. Meaning, you know, there's never
being
gonna be
okay.
Being okay, and, you know, for your life, those priorities, you know, they're never going to be totally in balance. How do you balance work and life 50-50 so that it's balanced?
Right.
You know, but unhealthy balance is really, really scary.
Yeah.
So.
And I think a lot of that has to do with, you know, that expectation that we all have, that we've been told, you know, to have this balanced life, whatever that is. So that actually jumped out at me. And also multitasking, because I don't know about all of you moms out there, or any one of you, if you have, even if you're not a mom and you're working, you're juggling home life, fitness, social life, everything, you're trying to be at 100% for everything at all times. Multitasking, according to the one thing, and I truly believe this now, it's not our friend. And I, for one, am a chronic multitasker. I'm always thinking of all the different things that I need to get done at all times. So I'm constantly jumping from one thing to the next. And according to the one thing, we are hurting ourselves and possibly sabotaging our own productivity. So while most of us believe multitasking makes us more productive, it actually makes us less productive and we're less effective. So what do you think, Tommy? What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I thinking through it kind of analytically, and they break it down. I really like that. And this helped me. The illustration helped me kind of think through this, and as far as how I'm going to apply it.
Yeah.
And I think they reference like watching TV and folding laundry. Like that's technically multitasking.
What about chewing gum and walking?
Right. Okay. But I mean, but again, they're not thinking about walking. Like it's involuntary almost, right? You're thinking about it, but it's not like breathing. But both tasks don't take like intentional will and brain power, other than knowing where to put the laundry and how to fold it, and that you're watching TV. But what the other kind of story, their kind of analogy they gave is, if you're in the office and you are focused on a specific task that you have to think through on your computer, and then someone comes in and asks a strategy question or something. Now you're starting and stopping, your brain switching gears. If you were to get that task done and then finish and then go talk to that person about that strategy question, the idea is that focused finishing it will allow you to be more productive at the end of the day if you were to be more specific and intentional. So that's what I'm really thinking through, is if I'm trying to do different things,
you're pushing
at
pause
the same time,
and then pushing pause.
your brain is literally starting,
resetting
each
each
so
time.
If you time that, the course of a day, I think they said 26% less productive.
Yeah, I forgot the exact number, but it's in there.
But the point is, it's really something for me to think through, especially with work-related things. Yeah.
Well, the other thing I know that we actually talked about before I even opened this book was thinking big, and which is something that kind of naturally comes to me. I automatically go to, thinking on a much grander scale. I always think of like the ultimate, of everything, and which is a positive. It can definitely be a good thing. And I was thinking of it differently until I read the book, and it says if you really don't start from a place of thinking big, how are you going to set the bar for what you want to achieve? So if we think about people who are high achievers, or simply those, that get maybe a million different things done in one day with ease, we constantly wonder, how are they able to achieve so much? And, honestly, the answer, or at least a portion of the answer, and this is obviously those who don't have help, we're comparing to those who don't have any assistance, they set their limits high and work according to the standard they set for themselves. So
that's the key, I think. That's such a key statement. If you think about, you're going to accept what you accept, so if you accept a standard that is menial and, not above the average, well then you can't complain if you're average the rest of your life, right? And
Right.
you have an average job or an average career, an average kids or an average marriage. If we accepted for our marriage, that we talk to each other for 5 minutes a day and that's the
Done.
bar,
Box checked.
I mean, that would be a poor marriage. But
One date a year?
Yeah, right?
That's my cap.
So it's not just with work or not just with career, but big goals, right?
Right.
With anything. And I really like that. I really do like that aspect of the book where it talks about, kind of reframing, set high standards and dream big, then use the kind of this framework of
then work
focusing
back
on
from
the
there.
on the one thing and then working back from there to accomplish that goal.
It's almost like if you have a sales goal of I want to close, X number of deals, and I'm sure they're probably applying that as well in real estate.
Sure.
If they were probably thinking big, working backwards from what your goal is makes much more sense, if you can actually map it out that way. And then you know exactly what you need to do, what steps you need to take, what's your plan of action.
Keep asking the questions. What do I need to do to get to that?
Right.
And then, okay, well, what do I need to do to get to, break it down by asking yourself that question.
Right.
What's the one thing I can do to reach the goal today, to reach the goal this week, to reach the goal this quarter? And
Like,
it doesn't.
your goal
we
would
always
be
talk
like-
about it from a sales standpoint because we're both in sales, but
Yeah.
it's so applicable to whatever your life
Yeah,
goal is.
definitely
or whatever that
applicable
goal
to your marriage and your relationship with your spouse. Like if there are certain goals that you have from day one,
Yeah.
of the type of marriage you want to have and working back from there. Or in certain areas of your marriage, there can be specific things that you want to work on, whether it's your intimacy or how you want to romance your wife, those things that I know you're constantly wanting to.
Obviously, it's all I think about. But I forget where I heard it, but the most important day of your marriage is not your first day, it's the last day. How do you end? How well do you end your marriage? Not in a negative way, but in a positive way. If we look back on our marriage at, when we're 90 years old, and we want to know that we reached for those dreams and we sought after those dreams and we worked backwards and we did all those steps and we asked those questions, what can we do for our marriage?
Right. I could honestly say to anyone, and I know I've said it to you, I love our marriage more now than I did day one.
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
It was good day one, but it's completely in a different place now. I can't even explain it. It's at a different level of love and passion and just, yeah.
Absolutely. So, thinking big, right? Following
Sorry, I was
those
going down a
dreams.
rabbit hole
Yeah,
there.
no, it's a good one. I mean, but thinking big and then, asking that one thing question. Okay,
Yeah.
So, if my goal is, I think, health can be something that's kind of easier to kind of frame. So, if you have a goal of, okay, you know what? In 6 months, I want to lose 30 pounds. Okay. What is the one thing I can do to reach that goal in 6 months? Okay, well, if that is, okay, I need to change my diet. Okay, what's the one thing in my diet I can take out of my diet to reach that goal? Okay, what's the one thing I can do to get rid of added sugar, which would be mine, right?
No chocolate chip cookies.
But see, you break it down into those individual things, or you can break it down over time. So, okay,
Yeah.
if it's a 6-month goal, okay, well, what's the thing I can do in month one? Okay, what about the thing I can do in week one, day one, hour one?
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that really comes easy for you as far as, fitness, because you're an athlete. And so your mind can automatically break those steps down. That may be a little bit more challenging for someone else who's maybe
wish
not.
I could apply that discipline to other areas of my life as effectively as I can naturally do it with athletics or sports. If I have a goal or a target, if I can break it down and I know what I have to do to get there.
Well, that's what makes like books like this such a great, useful tool, because it's helping us kind of reframe our thinking so we can apply it in those areas and recognize where we're falling short. So I wasn't an athlete at your level, but fitness for me is probably an easy focus because I also look at it differently. It's also a space for me to regroup and kind of silence the other things that are part of my multitasking. But yeah, absolutely. The thinking big, I think, just the way they explain that, I really like the way they break that down.
And a lot, kind of along with thinking big, it kind of goes hand in hand. Is, do you have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset?
So what's a growth mindset?
So a growth mindset really focuses and generally thinks big and seeks growth as a target, whereas a fixed mindset is essentially placing artificial limits on what you think you can do, and
Out
it's
of
more
fear?
focused on avoiding failure or avoiding pain, right? And statistically, most people would rather avoid pain. If they had to make a decision, it would be to avoid pain than it would be to seek, something good, because we're a lot of times we're conditioned to avoid pain.
Or maybe to just do what we know we'll naturally succeed at.
Or, which if you have a fixed mindset, that could just be subpar or average. And, you wake up 20 years later and you're like, what happened to all my life? What did I
Fixed
accomplish?
mindset, yeah.
I mean,
I'm guilty.
And it's not, there's a difference, I think, between, because there's a focus on being content, right? But being content doesn't mean like you just settle and you just set, mediocre goals for yourself.
Right.
Right. So I don't think contentment is kind of at odds with dreaming big and shooting for, bigger and grander things.
No, and I think contentment can actually be a misused or misunderstood word.
Like settle or whatever happens, you just accept it. That is some people's definition of contentment.
Yeah.
I don't buy it. Contentment is a kind of an internal peace that you have with knowing that I may fail, but I'm going to get back up. I'm okay with that, but I'm still going to keep getting back up. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep pushing. I'm going to keep doing those things.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go into a pit of despair if I don't reach that goal this time.
Right.
I think that's more.
You won't be rocking back and forth in the corner.
Right. I mean, not most nights.
Well, I'm guilty of a fixed mindset in certain areas. I mean, it's happened. I don't want to say areas, but there have been moments, and I'm sure at times, maybe on a weekly basis, I'll have that moment of fixed mindset, and a lot of it's really work related, because you want to avoid a no or rejection, and I don't think anybody really seeks out to hear those or to feel that or to hear a no. But in sales is kind of part of that world. But even with this alone, with the podcast, I mean, without a growth mindset, there's no way we would have set out on this venture. I mean, we're kind of vulnerable putting ourselves out here. Yeah. And we're really learning along the way. So forgive us if we make mistakes.
Not if.
We're growing.
Forgive us that we make mistakes, when we make mistakes. But, it's fun. I think it's brought us closer together. We've learned more about each other. And it's really kind of expanded our horizons, if you will, around we're learning a lot of technical stuff. We're just learning a ton about ourselves and our marriage, and hopefully we're helping other people, and if they get some benefit and
we can provide some value. But this is also kind of a creative space, and you can't really have a fixed mindset in any creative space,
right? Because things change so rapidly in the world of podcasting and the world of technology. Change so
social
rapidly.
Media, it's constantly changing.
Yeah, so it's you have to stay out in front and be willing to accept change and have a growth mindset and learn and grow and get better. And that applies with everything in life.
So productivity is also something else the book touches on.
Not touches on. Spends a lot of time on.
Yeah, it's pretty consistent throughout the book. Getting as much highly concentrated work with solid results done in a smaller block of time rather than working, 11, 12 hours in a day would be the opposite of truly being productive. So a lot of times I think, I worked all day. I worked 11 hours, or, I opened my computer at this hour. I made this many calls. I worked again at 10 o'clock at night for 3 more hours. That must make me productive. And honestly, I have had days, and looking back now that I read the book, I've had days where maybe I've gone into my quiet space. Typically, these are days where I'm really uninterrupted, where I'm really highly focused for 3 or 4 hours. I get more calls done, more productivity, things I can move the needle on more. I'm actually more effective in that short window of time, and I'm not getting burnt out.
Yeah, I think that that statement or that old saying of like, the work will expand to the time allowed, right? And so if you had 4 hours to complete a task, your boss gives you something to do, and he said, I need this by 1:00, and you're like, oh crap, imagine that, you get it done. Like, you focus your energy if there's a timeline, if there's a deadline.
Yeah.
But if he said, hey, I need this by, tomorrow, and it's the same amount of work, guess what's going to happen?
Yeah.
You'll expand it to fill that time.
Or if you have vacation coming up, right?
Yeah, you're like, oh crap, I got to get all this work done.
You'll get it done because you want to go on vacation.
But that's the whole point of this, is like, it's to ask the questions about, are you doing the things necessary to be the most productive person you can be, and filling your time, those hours, with productivity, and asking the questions of, am I doing the one thing that I should be doing right now to be the most productive person at what I'm doing?
Right. Like starting your day. So if I start my day, and I know I said it in the book as well, I shouldn't move on to maybe all of the other tasks that are on my laundry list of to-dos until I get my one thing done, or I get what I need to get done that's going to move me closer to my one thing. And then once I've done that, then I can move on to my other tasks. But that should be my main focus when I start my day, after I have coffee. 2 cups.
At least 2 cups, right?
At a minimum. Time blocking was...
goes hand in hand with the productivity.
Yes, it really does. And so just like I said, as far as starting your day out with focusing on whatever task goes along with your one thing, a lot of that is time blocking. So you know how you can really be hyper focused on in the morning or whatever that particular time is. But one of the things that it did actually note that I thought we could also implement is at the beginning of the year when we do our annual planning, something they mention is actually blocking their getaway weekends or vacations just right out of the gate.
Yeah, and then so, work your work schedule around your vacations.
Right.
That's brilliant.
And it also kind of adds incentive, goals. It gives you a visual, and I know that they're really huge on actually using a planner. And I know everyone uses their phone and other forms of technology, and that's definitely something you should continue to do. But actually seeing things written out, which I work very well that way. I like having an old school calendar. I like seeing every single day in front of me. I don't know, there's just something visual about it that just clicks. And I think that probably is part of this, whole planning, having that visual of, okay, these are the times, the weekends, the weeks that I'm going to be gone with my family. I can plan around that, work towards that, so I know that, hey, that weekend is my time with Tommy. It's not my time with Tommy and a million other clients and this person and that person. It's my time with Tommy.
Yeah.
Or our time as a family.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, for me, I've gone more digital, but I still like to print out, so if you find it effective to have a printout or have it, and you still want to be effective or efficient with using it digitally, just print it out. Print out the week, print out your month. You can do that with any of the calendars.
I just like writing it. I don't know.
That's fine. No, I mean, look.
I'm really like in the dinosaur ages with my pen and paper.
From a productivity standpoint, something I read.
Yeah.
And that I've now started doing.
What's that?
Is I was laughing when I read this, and this was about that productivity thing. They said that they did a study, and if you have a to-do list that you print out, right? I used to love having a printed out list or a written down list and then scratching things off as I got them done. Yeah. Because it made me feel good. And then I would look at the list and be like, look at all the things. But here's what they said. When you do it that way, you end up not getting as much done versus having like a to-do list when you hit the button, like you check it, it deletes it, and you only see what you have left. Because your brain works to say, okay, I'm focused on those tasks that are left, not give yourself a pat on the back and slow down because I just finished 8 out of the 10 things. And since I've been doing that, I've found that I'm better. I'm more productive at getting things done. Yeah. So you got to find those things that work for you.
That makes sense. It's just something about writing things down that I don't know. I mean, I used to be a journaler, like just writing my journal. Maybe it's just
no. I completely understand. No, I get it. I think the time blocking, I really love the focus on that vacation and time off piece where you work towards that. But the couple things that stuck out for me about the time blocking was how much time they spent on it in the book and how important they say it is, so that you're productive in the time where you're working, and then you change gears, and then you're that time block then could be, okay, I've got a 3-hour window of spending time with my family.
Right.
And that is precious, that is blocked, that is, not interrupted. And I need to do a better job with that, especially during this quarantine and COVID time where there's, there's a lot of blurred lines between kids' school, work, home
what time
life,
it is,
what day it is. Yeah. I think that time blocking is really important.
Yeah. If anything, right now, and obviously this applies to us as well, we're definitely not coming from a place where we have mastered this clearly, or else we wouldn't be reading this. But this is a really good time to read books like this.
Wrote the book.
Right? Yeah, we would have written the book. But instead we're reading it and sharing it with you guys, because now's a really good time to read stuff like this and use these tools to fine-tune these areas, because when things eventually go back to normal, maybe we can kind of get back to work, back into our routines, and apply all of this and be even more effective. But what's great in the book is they do have a lot of good examples of high achievers that kind of share what you just touched on as far as like choosing those blocks of time, because for some, their day may look a little bit different in terms of whatever their line of work is. Sure. And so that block of time may look a little bit different. But each and every one of them did share their block of time that they would pour into their family, their spouse, their health, their spiritual life. And so all of those things are buckets that require time. But doing the time blocking, I think, in each and every one of those individuals, those examples, it shows how they were able to achieve so much. So I definitely need to fine tune that on my end.
It's kind of funny for all you salespeople out there, or jobs where you have very specific tasks that need to get done and that are priority, and that is the one thing that will help in your job, or it's the most important thing. Is how I've read another book called Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Blunt, and he does a lot of consulting at companies, and he went into this one company, and they he just kind of observed their floor sales team, who were supposed to be making phone calls, proactive phone calls, cold calls, and he would just take note and just kind of tick off every time they made calls, and then he brought them all in. They said, he'd ask, so how many calls did you make this hour? Oh, I made probably 20 or 30. He's like, you made 5. And then in between each of those calls, you went on to LinkedIn, you were trying to do research on the next call, and then you got an email, so you answered an email, then you did this, and you that.
You need to do like a power hour.
Yeah, and that goes into that time block thing. And so for all of us salespeople that nobody likes cold calling, what the recommendation is you carve out sacred phone block time where that's all you do. You're just dialing and dialing and dialing. You're not doing research. You're not doing research. You're just dialing.
Move on to the next.
And so whatever your one thing is, that's if you're a salesperson and you're an outbound salesperson, that's the one thing, right? Outbound prospecting. Yeah. You keep it sacred. Even close your door, put a sign on the door, don't talk to me. Maybe we'll do that with the kids. Don't talk to us. We're going to be working for the next hour.
Yeah.
But, don't be afraid to be like really consistent and keep it sacred, whatever that one thing is that you need to do every day to move yourself forward and whatever that goal is. Keep it sacred. Block everything out. Physically, emotionally, everything.
Well, it even says in the book, it's a domino effect. So, if you have those things align and you're protecting that time and you're effective with that time, everything else is going to fall into place. That way...
And not just fall, but like build.
Right.
Like it what is it? It builds sequentially, I think they say. That growth is sequential, not just kind of linear. Yeah. So you build on it by being disciplined with those time blocks and with the productivity. It's really good.
And it's going to take work. I mean, this is not something that's going to happen overnight. This is something I'm going to have to practice every single day until it becomes a habit.
Yeah, and that's what they talk a lot about habits in the 68 days or so that it takes to form
Is it 68? I thought it was 61.
Well,
it's in the 60s.
It's in the 60s, yeah. It's a lot. But I think we talked a little bit about applying it to our marriage. I think that we talked about this earlier, that the time blocking for us, I think, is one of those things that we can really continue. I mean, we're pretty specific about spending time together. Yeah. Not just date nights, which we talked about in a previous episode, but going away, and we recognize how important that is. It's been hard.
I think actually we were more effective with doing those things pre-COVID. Yeah. Like even when you were traveling a lot, which was still a challenge and probably harder on just like the flow of family life, but we were more intentional about blocking off weekends or date nights because we had to, and obviously to work around work schedules, but we really did carve out that time. And when we had that time, it was hyper focused on me and you, just the two of us. And this was our date night. This was our weekend getaway. And you're right, during this time of COVID, it's been kind of...
Everything's blurred.
It is.
Right? It's you think you're spending more time with people, and then if you really... I wonder if any of you guys listening really were honest, like we're trying to be right now. If you really look back over the past 3 months, like how much of your time you probably thought you were spending with your spouse was really just... You just happen to be in the same house.
You're in the same space,
yeah. You're in the same
but are you
room.
really connecting?
Yeah, and we're guilty of it. It's hard. We recognize it's really hard, so we're trying to refocus our energies and our time and our effort right now around that.
And I think it was more like in the beginning, it was like probably pretty easy to do it, to connect. I mean, because we thought, oh, this will be, a 2 week, 3 week, and we'll be back to normal. Because we kind of, we like routine. We're very routine people. And so, several months later, it's like, you get wrapped up in your own thing, even though you're in the same room or in the same house.
I know it.
So we need to work on that.
That's a big one. I think another one we talked about is, kind of keeping each other accountable to those the one things and the big goals. And, I think we could... in a loving way, not as a you're not my boss, I'm not your boss type of like attitude, but more of a, hey, we have these goals, you have this goal, I have this goal. Let's keep each other, let's keep building each other up and reminding each other that, hey, we've got these goals that we want to accomplish with our spiritual life, with our family, with our work, with the podcast, whatever it is.
Accountability is really important.
And each of us knowing what those one things are and agreeing on what those one things are to reach those goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. I mean, I think that in the book it had kind of talked about accountability in different ways. So for us in our marriage, of course, it would be being accountable to one another. But, outside of that, having friends, mentors, family members, business partners, which in this sense, of course, with the podcast, you and I are partners, Right. So having that accountability as far as making sure we're carving out that time so we can share with you guys, different topics like we are today. But, other things that may be a fitness goal or a spiritual goal, I think it's important. And we can definitely implement that. I did notice that in the book. I was like, oh, that's something we need to do. We're doing more. I feel like we do it to a certain level, but,
We'd love to hear from you guys if you've read the book or if you have, what you think of our kind of discussion about it today. We'd love to hear, ways that you maybe implement some of these kind of frameworks or the questions. I love just, what's the one thing I can do today to get to X or get to Y?
I think a lot of people can read this and apply it different ways. And I think probably the first time you read it, because you read it at a sales
it was all focused on business and work. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably different than how you're reading it now.
A lot of ways, yeah, absolutely.
But again, the book is The One Thing, The Surprisingly Simple Truth Behind Extraordinary Results by Gary Keller with J. Papasan. It's a #1 Wall Street Journal bestseller, fantastic read, quick read. You can read it in a day or a weekend if you don't like to sit down and read it for a couple of hours. Tommy actually listened to it on Audible, which is not really how I absorb information, but he loves Audible, so it is available on there as well.
Yeah, so again, good timing because our next episode, we're going to spend a little time kind of changing gears a little bit and talking about our framework and our kind of what we're doing with our son now that we learn he's going to be all virtual for the first 9 weeks at least. So
yes,
we will
at
be
least,
applying
but who knows, may go longer than that.
Yeah, we'll be applying the one thing and ask ourselves, okay, what are the for him to have a successful first 9 weeks?
Right.
What are the things we can do
to
as
help
his
him
parents
apply
to get him set up, and we'll be discussing that next week. We think the timing is, our next episode rather, and we think the timing is really good because I'm sure there's many of you out there maybe getting news that you are doing virtual or some blended version of that with the school. So hopefully,
who knows? Yeah, it's across the board. I've heard so many different things, and so whatever you choose, obviously, I mean, we support the choice of every parent out there. I mean, there's a lot of different households that don't have a choice. We didn't get to choose, but we're going to be virtual, so it'll be learning how to manage this new school year.
Yeah, we're going to come up with some tips and tricks around what we're doing. And
Trips?
Yeah. Hopefully there's some trips in there.
Why not?
But, that'll be on our next episode. And until then, we thank you for joining us today. We hope that the one thing provides the same value it for you that it did for us, and
we hope
will
you
do
enjoyed
for
it.
us. So until our next episode.
We'll see you then. Take
Bye,
care,
guys.
guys. Bye. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and if so, please continue to listen on Podbean, iTunes, or Spotify, and hit subscribe. Also, visit us at destinationmarriagepodcast.com. Follow us on Instagram at destination_marriage, and be sure to tune in to our next episode.